When we speak of religion, we often think that this means a fixed set of beliefs, when in fact many religious texts have many denominations and interpretations of those texts. The Lurianic Kabbalah is one such set of beliefs, often described as the mystical beliefs of Judaism. It appears in fact to go against many orthodox beliefs of the Jewish faith. At its deepest level, it's the Zohar. Even many Orthodox, Reform and Reconstructionist members of the Jewish faith acknowledge a moral obligation to repair the world. So what does that actually mean? And how does that impact those outside of the faith? The disturbing and unfortunate reality is that these extreme beliefs appear to force the hand of what they call God. We have all heard the term order out of chaos. To these Kabbalah, first came the chaos and they are the order. These can be seen in the mythologies of Jacob stealing the birthright of the firstborn Esau, the appropriating of Egyptian mythology in what became the story of the Exodus. In the Gnostic mythologies, this is the fake demiurge copy or the matrix from the blueprints of that prime reality. Through occultists such as Sabbatai Zevi and his reincarnation in Jacob Frank. This recycling of other mythologies is consistent in these beliefs. Nothing is new under the sun. Very few researchers are speaking about this at this level of the agenda, an agenda that uses the Jewish faith, twists it and distorts it. A mythological narrative with real-world implications, a madness that is resulting in the genocide in Gaza as we speak. Christopher John Bjerknes joins me today to decode this agenda to create chaos out of order.
So you have the beginning of 3 columns, and you have a column down the middle which is balanced and like yin and yang contains both the evil and the good, the male and the female, the light and the darkness, and that's the key to Lurianic Kabbalah. And the vessels represent the darkness because they contain the light in what is described as a shell or a husk, a keli pot. So these form kelipotic vessels, and the vessels contain the light. But again, in the very beginning, this light was immensely powerful, and these vessels were immature. So beneath the upper 3 vessels of the Godhead, the androgynous middle, the male on the right, the female on the left, you then had the creation of 7 more vessels beneath. And these vessels were weak because they were immature. They had not yet gained their strength, and at the same time it was a double whammy because the light itself was in its original, very intense form. So when the light emanated one down to the next, all the way down to the final vessel, which is the earth, Malkut, representing the female aspect of God, who is called Shekinah, these lower 7 vessels shattered. And when they shattered, they created these shards of the potter's vessels being broken apart that took the form of the husk of a fruit or the shell containing within it the spark like a pearl. And Luria said that these kelipot, these shards of the broken vessels, these husks, both protect that pearl, but they also conceal its divine spark and its divine essence. And the fundamental tenet of these emanation theories, which appeared in Christian Gnosticism, in Greek Neoplatonism, in the Middle Platonism of Philo Judaeus, who introduced the Logos to Judaism, there is this belief that there's an intermediary force between the highest God that emanates all of these things to form creation and mankind itself. And that intermediary force is referred to as the Logos. Lurianic Kabbalah was developed by a man named Isaac Luria, who traveled to the Holy Land. And I believe that in the Holy Land, he encountered ancient Gnostic and mystery religion texts, and he applied those to the Kabbalistic beliefs of the Zohar and came up with an entirely new system that is heavily dependent upon Platonic beliefs in emanation theories and Platonic beliefs in reincarnation, which already existed among the Kabbalists. But he created a whole formal cosmological system of the 6 days of creation, which are described in the very beginnings of the book of Genesis. And he applied Gnostic and Greek Orphic mystery religion beliefs to the book of Genesis and came up with this idea that in the beginning, the infinite, the nothingness, produced the infinite, which produced the infinite light. And that in order to establish creation, the Meta-God, the Ein, the Ein Sof, and the Ein Sof Ur, first had to create a space in which existence could exist. So the Ein Sof contracted itself and formed a hollow vessel. And into that vessel, which forms a shell like a clay pot, is how it's described in the Old Testament, the potter's vessel. The Ein Sof Ur, the infinite light, started to fill that vessel. And there was like a pulsing effect where this light went back and forth, emanated from the Meta-God into this vessel. But it had this divine will to return to itself. So there was this initial struggle. And these are reflected in the division of the Godhead from its androgynous unity into its male and female aspects in the top 3 Sephirot of Keter, which is the crown, Chokhmah, which is wisdom, and Binah, which is understanding. And then behind all of these is the hidden 11th Sephirah, Deat, knowledge. And we even have a Hasidic cult called Chabad, which combines the Chokhmah, the wisdom, with Binah, the understanding, with Deat, knowledge, to form the acronym Chabad, out of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. But since human beings are escaping matter and obtaining their own ripened knowledge and their own will, they have gone into matter, met with Satan, and freed themselves from God and become infinitely separated from God, to the point where they are now each individual gods. And they can, with their mind, with their will, with their magical powers, impose their divine images of the order that matter ought to take. So human beings can now cause God to cease to exist by disbelieving in God. God is kind of an egregore that only exists because the imaginations of human beings create it and bring it into existence through their belief. So the Kabbalists cease to believe in the gods, perceive themselves as gods, have gone and met with Satan and freed themselves from these gods, and can now utilize the science and technology, the ripened fruit of the tree of knowledge, to create vessels which are both androgynous and immortal to contain their souls. And they have literally done this. They have created artificial wombs in which these full-grown homunculi can now be reared up from the DNA of males without the need of a female egg. They can extract the DNA of the male to form both chromosomes to create androgynous beings, but instead having humanity cast off the gods and create its own garden, which will be superior and perfected and greatly, vastly better than what was originally created by the demiurge.
Just to put in and to back up what you're saying, what are the chances of 600,000 Israelis, Jews, if you want to call them that, Israelis, leaving in the Exodus, 600,000 apparent letters in the Torah, and 600,000 apparent Ashkenazi European Jews that started Israel, modern day Israel? What are the chances of that number being used over and over again? So guys, go and check that out, because that gives weight to understanding that these people are following these patterns. It's clearly there is a returning of a specific number of, as you call them, souls, lights, and that they're not including the likes of me and you, are they, Christopher, in those 600,000?
And the Ashkenazi Jews are also being deceived into believing that from their Messiah, these 600,000 new beings will be derived. But all of the prophecies, which are their plans, call for the eradication of the vast majority of those people who conceive of themselves to be Jewish. So they are also in grave, grave danger and are being deceived. Not that most of them go along with it anyway, but state that each one of those 6 days represents 1,000 years. I believe we discussed this before. Mm-hmm. So there is a 6,000-year time span within this cosmic cycle of creation, and that it is the Jewish mission, the duty of the Jewish people, is to shed this light, to free this light from these shells of darkness and to sweep away the shells. The shells initially serve a protective function. They surround and safeguard the Jewish people who live among them in the exile, and the female aspect of the Godhead, Shekinah, also spreads her loving wings around the Jewish people and safeguards them. But ultimately, as the world to come, as the Messianic age approaches, by performing these 613 mitzvot, 3 of which are the extermination of Amalek, they discard these shells, these kelipat. They discard the vessel so that the light becomes pure, so that Adam can shed his clothing. And the ambition, the drive, is to form the original 600,000 souls of Adam as 600,000 immortal androgynes on earth, and to eliminate the rest of humanity. And they refer to this as the process of tikkun olam. Tikkun is rectification, olam is the world.